Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. I've got a beauty of a reel today. We're going to talk a little bit about this one. We'll give you an inside look. We'll take it apart and see how it works. But anybody looking at this reel would be hard-pressed to say that the reel was made before World War II. Wow. This reel is an Ocean City, Shore City reel. The reel was introduced in 1937. It had a 5-year run until 1942 when, well, the Ocean City plants were converted over to wartime production. And when they resumed making fishing reels post-World War II, this one was discontinued. And, well, it served a beautiful time. The innovation for 1937 was a trip lever switch here and a different way, they called it synchro meshing, a different way for this reel to engage and disengage the spool. It's a beautiful reel. We'll take it apart for you. We'll show you how it was built. But look at that. Even today, it just spins free and easy. This one looks in good condition. It was made with molded Bakelite side plates. There is a minor chip on both sides. If you're a collector, I guess that means something to you. Still has the loud clicker. The nickel-plated metals are nice and beautiful. The only other issue is this handle, which is part of the problems with the older Ocean City handles. This stem or collar here tends to swell, grab the post on the handle, and well, it just becomes difficult to turn with it. You can see how easy it is to turn without trying to move the knob. And, well, there's no real cure to that. Some folks have suggested using heat to expand this. I've seen people come in with blistered handle knobs that are not working. But let's take a look. Let's go show you the 1937 to 1942 Shore City fishing reel that became, well, one of the value entries into their lineup. Ocean City sold this reel for $4.50 back in the day. And, well, during the Depression times, that was not a cheap reel by any stretch of the imagination. And Ocean City, as we mentioned, well, they were a little bit about the upper end. They serviced kind of an elitist crowd. And surprisingly, 1937, we're talking about it, one of the players that was working for Ocean City at that point was the fellow who founded Penn Reels, also made in Philadelphia, because he believed that there's a better way to make a fishing reel for the common angler, one that could be a little bit less expensive and help them engage in the sport. His name was Otto Heinz, and well, the rest is history, as they say. Over time, what happened was Ocean City kind of got priced out of the marketplace. But at the time, they were one of the premier fishing reel manufacturers. It started in 1922 by the Moskowitz brothers, who were a sporting goods company that was looking for a line of fishing reels. And it ended in 1957 with the sale of that company to True Temper. And True Temper, well, that's the outdoors conglomerate even today. Shovels and rakes and things like that. But at the time, they were also involved in fishing reels. And, well, in this case, just trying to get this off here. In this case, they also purchased the fishing reels for a while. All right, there we go. All right, this reel, I'm sure, has been serviced for a while. We got a cut bridge here. You can see there's a little bit of a chip going on there. So that's nothing to worry about. It's something that, well, you just kind of consider how many times this reel has been apart in 90 years or so. And you accept that from time to time, pieces and parts do wear. All right, we're going to remove the side plate. While we do that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like these kinds of videos, if you like to learn about fishing reels, like to see how they were made, understand a little bit about the history of the reels themselves, who made them, when they made them, how they were used, and the like. And I would encourage you to subscribe to my channel. And if you do subscribe to the channel, please use that notification button. And if you like the videos, please like these videos. So Ocean City was a manufacturer in Philadelphia, and well, they made all kinds of reels. If you look at their catalogs, they're extensive. They have freshwater reels. They had reels that were made for fly fishing. Eventually, they started making some spinning reels later when spinning reels became popular. Ocean reels were kind of where they were founded. They were founded basically for big game fishing, and their premier lineup there was a reel called the Ike Walton. Ike Walton was a famous saltwater fisherman down in the Florida area, and well, the reels have stood the test of time. They've been eclipsed, as I mentioned, by pen reels, but these reels were certainly high quality and well made in the day. All right, here's our first look then at what a 1937 to 42 engineering was about. And this is the first time that Ocean City switched over to this design in the side plate structure. You can see a nice solid thick Bakelite case and nickel plated on the metals. Now, I don't want to use anything aggressive to clean this. I'm going to leave this patina sort of as it is, but I am going to use a very light kitchen scrubby and some rod and reel cleaner just to take off the greases that have settled in on that reel seat. I'll use a paper towel for that. That should shine that right up. And look at that, after 90 years or 89 years or whatever the math works out to, you still have beautiful nickel plating on these pieces. We're going to service this reel as well. We'll just take a dab of grease. That should go right in that little hole where this spool is going to seat. Just check out, this one's very clean. We'll put that back in. And then we'll show you how to service this side of the reel. And with this side of the reel, I suspect we're going to need drag washers, because as I look there, that collar's not extending beyond the side plate, which usually means that your drag washers are worn and need to be replaced. Surprisingly, the drag washers from a modern day pen reel can act as a substitute for drag washers that are no longer available for this reel. We'll show you those in a moment. To disassemble, we're going to remove the screw that holds the jack on. Now, sometimes you're going to find that there's a little gate clip here rather than a screw. In this case, there's a screw. And we're going to pull out on the jack. And as I mentioned, basically the balance of the Ocean City reels from this point forward all use this type of design. So it doesn't matter which model you're working on, if it has a side plate where the lever pulls out, this is the setup you're going to find. These are actually 3 components. You want to take them apart and clean them off. And essentially the only issue here is that the grease is dried. That makes sense. I have no idea when the last time this reel was used, but I'll say that it can be used in the future. We do need to play around a little bit with that handle. I think we might have to replace the handle. Those swollen knobs are just very, very difficult to free up and keep freed up. So if we want to put this one back out on the water, then we're probably going to have to get another Ocean City handle to replace that. So I have a decision to make there, whether I just want to do that or if I want to just keep the reel as it was. Okay, this is your free spool mechanism. It operates by pulling the gear off the spool when you engage. We'll show you that in a little bit. There's 2 sides to this carrier. The side with the slots is what's going to grab the 2 studs on the spool. So make sure that that's facing out. You're also going to notice on your yoke, call it a yoke because, well, it looks like a yoke for oxen. There's one side that has a little cut over tab here that faces in. A little bit of grease onto that, into the slot. A little bit of fishing reel grease. I use Penn Precision Reel Grease for the back end of this. And we can set that off to the side as well. I suggest as you're working on these fishing reels that you understand what you're going to do with your parts before it's time to do that. When you start taking these pieces and parts off, have a strategy. I use a parts tray, but I would recommend that regardless of what your strategy is, that you think about that ahead of time. This one I'm always curious about whether I have to take this one out or not to reinstall. We do have that anti-reverse in the back there. Some of those are actually on the bridge. Some of those are held in by a little piston. So let's see which one this is. To remove the bridge, it's the two lower screws. You don't need to take out the top ones unless we figure out that we need to take that out to reset the bridge. Now the most popular of these Ocean City reels was the Bay City reels, the 112s and 113s. They seem to have been everywhere back in the day. So if you have one of those, it's very similar. Okay, the answer on this one is that it has that spring that's holding this in. Okay, well, we found out why the anti-reverse wasn't working. There's no anti-reverse spring in here. That means the last person to put it on probably put it on incorrectly or lost it, and that's probably why this reel wound up where it wound up. So we're going to kind of work something about that. But let's get over to the drag washers for a moment. As I mentioned, we're seeing that the drag washers here are really worn. That makes sense. They're 90 years old. They were a fabric kind of a washer then. And it's time to give them a replacement. As I mentioned, modern day, well, sort of modern day, Penn drag washers will work. That'll be the Model 60 drag washers from the Long Beach series. We're going to see if we can't clean this one up. Okay, to continue with this, we want to push that pin through. If it gets stuck, if you can't raise it up, just use the little pliers to kind of wiggle it out a little bit until you can bring it up and off, and then we can clean the base of this. What's disappointing when you find reels that are missing pieces and parts, I suspect somebody may have had this apart at some point, decided they were going to do the service on it, lost the spring, put it back together again, and then put it on a shelf, and that's kind of unfortunate. Also looks like they did a little bit of buggering this up, but hopefully we'll be able to get that back on. Alright, we've cleaned out the dirt and debris underneath that. Light coating of grease there. Let's grab a cotton swab and run that through the post. Get the old debris out. And we can put our collar back on, pull this in. And let's go check out those drag washers now. Okay, upon examining this, we have a cork or an asbestos washer. I think it's cork. It's become compressed. That's limiting the range of the drag. Here's that item we were talking about earlier. You can use a modern Penn 60 washer in these. They do fit beautifully. That will build up the area from the compression. That will enable us to operate this reel easily and restore the drag for that reel. So it's just kind of a little trick that you get every now and then if you can't find original parts, and you're not going to find cork drags for 90-year-old Ocean City reels generally available on the market. All right, I'm going to grease this up, bring this over. Bring that down. washer that will rebuild now the height of this. Then we can put our spacer on, and that completes the gear servicing on this reel. All right, let's show you over on the rebuild side of this. I think I have to take this one out now to reset that pin. That's probably what happened. I'm guessing that whoever did this in the last time around probably didn't understand how to set the bridge. Kind of figured out how to work the one end, but not the spring of the other. Lost it. So I took a moment to search my parts bins, and I was able to find the assembly that had the spring on it. So looks like we'll be able to resurrect this one after all. So let's show you how to put the reel back together again. We're going to start a little bit by the grease on that back portion of it there, where the other side of the spool will go. I'm going to bring in our lower assembly. We want to tilt it so that we are able to get access to where the anti-reverse dog belongs. Now we can bring our screw in, bring the dog onto the screw, over the latch, onto the click ratchet, and then you just move this stud back ever so slightly to set that onto the tab. Once that is loaded in, you can turn your bridge to center up the screw holes. And with that centered, get your screwdriver and start it so that you can lock in that anti-reverse. Before you go much further, turn it. Make sure that you have that anti-reverse operating, which we didn't before. We'll bring this on. I'm going to close out the bridge now. Now you have two options at this point. You can move over and do the front side, or we can continue with the back. Let's load the back in. This has got a indented or slotted side that's going to face inward to accept the yoke. And it's got a square on the back, so it will lodge in here so that you don't have to worry about the alignment of it. Go ahead and put that back on. We needed to remove that to put that bridge in. Let's tighten that up. Now we have the two big springs. Go to your parts tray for that. They go over the piece that will be nested. And we can bring our yoke assembly in that we've previously serviced. Bring that in. You want to do a couple of things here. You don't want to trap your spring in that setup. So you have to clear both of those pieces. We need to take our lever now and bring that back in. That fell out of the case, as you recall. No big deal. And we can bring our yoke over, slide that into the two slots on each side. Align your hole with the hole for your, oops, that was an oops. There's two springs that need to go in first. That's the value of your parts tray. That's going to allow the release on this. Now we can bring that back in. Set that over. Align the hole for the screw. The screw has a little and a hold fast on it there. And you can start that by hand. Make sure that it's being set properly. And if you have an issue with trying to get that started, use a screw starter like I'm using here. Don't tighten it down on these because you can ruin that starter. Tighten that down now. And now we should see, as we pull this out, it's going to retract the pinion gear assembly. That's going to pull it off of the spool. That'll allow the spool to free spool. And when you bring it back up, it will engage. Those slots there are going to engage, as we noted before, with the studs here. For reinstall, it's always easy to take it and put it into free spool mode. Going to bring the side plate over now. Align the holes. And I did note that there are smaller screws for the bottom, so I'm going to start with a small screw to anchor this plate. And we'll take two of the longer ones to go to the sides. And once we have them in, it'll be a little bit easier to put all the rest of the screws in. So far we identified two issues that were going on with the reel. One is that the original washer for this became very compressed. That makes sense. And was no longer functional as a drag washer. So we just added what for a better term would be called an additional shim or layer to that drag washer. We used the modern Penn Long Beach drag washer for that. And once that washer built it up, we'll have no problem at all with the drag capacity on this reel. The second thing we noticed was the anti-reverse wasn't working. That's because, well, when it was serviced the last time, somebody lost the spring, didn't put it back in. I guess they must have taken the reel fishing like it was, or they just put it on the shelf, giving up hope. Well, fortunately for me and my parts bin, I happen to have one of them. I no longer have any more, but that's okay. It's going to help give this reel a second chance. And, well, just tighten up the side case now. Okay, time to put the star adjuster on. And here's a decision time with these reels. So the handle that was on the reel is just so hard to turn. You could never take that fishing. I found when it's comparable, the knob is a little bit bigger, but it does turn. It's a little bit less brilliant, if you will, but I think we're going to make the decision to go with this one so that, well, it could get a second chance to go fishing again. All right, tighten down that drag adjuster before you tighten down the handle. Start the handle screw with your fingers. Then we have the self-loading handle wrench, which is wonderful. Tighten it up, screw it down. Let's review what we did, and then we can give it a final test here. So we looked at this beautiful reel. It was manufactured between 1937 and 1942. We took this reel apart. We showed you how to clean the bottom of it just using a simple kitchen scrubby and some rod and reel cleaner. Probably should have taken the time to do that on the spool as well. We'll do that after the video, just noticing as we had that set aside. We opened it up. We showed you the way that the gear stack works. We found that the original drag washer in there was very compressed and interfering with the side plate. So we added a more modern, a Penn Long Beach drag washer in there that built up the stack to enable us to have the drags again. We also found that when we were servicing this, that when the last time the reel was serviced, somebody omitted the spring for that anti-reverse dog. So that's why when we were trying to take this off earlier, trying to spin our star adjuster, well, everything kept spinning because you didn't have an anti-reverse dog. Whether that's the reason why this reel stopped fishing or not, I guess we'll never know. All right, we put it all back together again. We found the assembly with the spring on it. We're able to redo the anti-reverse dog. Showed you how the free spool lever is set, and we're ready for a test. Well, this was working nicely before, so it can only work nicer now, right? Go to a free spool, spin our spool, spins nicely. Now it's a little tight because we added some grease, So you can take your adjuster on the side, just back it off a little bit, and then it'll spin nice and free and easy. Totally quiet. Who would think that this reel is over 80 years old? Let's put it in gear. Turns nice and free and easy. And with the replacement handle on it, you can actually use this handle to spin the reel. Well, I hope you've enjoyed that. A lot of folks ask on this one, why the bent bar? And, well, you know, that's an interesting one. This is on this side, so I don't think it belongs there. I think it belongs on the other side. The bent bar was an ergonomical feature to allow you to bring your thumb in for casting. I think over time somebody probably had this one apart. Switch the bar, put it in the front when it belongs in the back. But that was your casting feature on this. You would hold your spool and line, cast, and then release. And then the flat bar, well, that enables you to line across here using your thumb. If you tried to line it here, well, obviously you've got a gully in there, right? So, not sure why that was done that way, but we'll fix that after the video. I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. I do appreciate your efforts day in and day out and your choice of a profession for the public good. Also want to thank everybody else for watching, for learning from this one as I did, and well, hopefully cataloging that so that if you find one of these out in the flea markets or wherever you're searching for fishing reels, that you might just go get one, and now you know how to service it. I'll just take that bar out now. As we mentioned, we're going to go swap these over. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, wishing everybody a great day.